Welcome to the Self-Care Show with Deidre Sanford. Although holistic and alternative healing methods are becoming more and more mainstream, what method is right for you? How do you find a practitioner once you've chosen to explore an alternative therapy? Each week, Deidre will explore a different modality with practitioners who will explain their modality and the benefits they and their clients have received through their sessions. She and her guests may also offer live readings during the show. Now, your host of the Self-Care Show, Deidre Sanford.
Well, hello and good morning. It's Wednesday, August the 2nd, and you are watching the Self-Care Show. I'm Deidre. I'm your host, and I'm really happy to know that y'all are here to hang out with us today. I can't wait to bring Amara Honeck back to the show today. And that's my mistake, by the way. Her name is not Honeck back. It's Honeck, back. I lost the comma. I lost the space. I own it. And I apologize, Amara, for creating that issue. So we were talking backstage and we are ready to roll. Good morning, Tim. Good to see you this morning. We were chatting backstage and we're so ready to roll and share all of this amazing information that Amara has with you guys today. But I've been thinking this morning, music permeates our lives. It's in our cars. It's on our TVs as the jingles or the background music in a commercial, on a TV show, in a movie. Music creates feeling. Music creates movement in our lives. Music evokes emotions. And culturally, it's represented so many different things throughout the centuries and, even longer than just centuries, I'm sure. But the drums, we've got so many representations in oppressed communities. They were used to keep the community up and a little higher than they might be actually in their living day-to-day world, to bring themselves up to a higher level of joy and happiness. Multiple religions, of course, use music to speak with their higher person or higher being. So much of our lives depends on music and the music we listen to, the type of music we listen to, the frequency, the pitch, the melody, the lyrics. It comes together and affects us all in so many different ways at different times in our lives. I remember as I was going through some not quite ready to do deep healing work, but some healing work. I was, believe it or not, little known fact here on the station, I was an entertainer. I used to sing all the time. But the songs I would choose at the time were very representative of where I was in my life, which was very often a fairly dark place, pretty low vibe. But they were healing songs. And some of them I would rehearse time and time and time again, and several more times before I could actually sing those songs in public without ending up in an emotional heap on the floor. And sometimes maybe I could get through the first verse and then I'd be on the floor. But the more I sang that song and the more I worked with it, the more I could loosen up whatever emotional stuff that was stuck and let go of it so that I could open my throat chakra, exercise these muscles, and get that out of my system and bring it forward and bring that same healing to other people. So yeah, it's pretty instrumental in our lives, and we often don't think about that. It's just in the background. But what happens when we bring it to the forefront? What happens when we make music the focus of a certain time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour? Where can we take ourselves? What can we create within ourselves and bring forward into our lives simply by listening to a form of music? That's what Amara is here for today. Amara, come out and join us today so that we can pick your brain and learn everything that you have to share with us about binaural beats. Hi.
Hi,
Good
everybody.
morning.
Good morning. So binaural beats, some people just don't quite understand what they are. They just know that they're put into meditation music. But binaural beats are actually an illusion. So what happens is there's a frequency played in one ear, and a frequency played in another ear. And to reconcile the two frequencies, our brain will do what we call a frequency follow response. It will take that third frequency that we're not hearing on the audio. Remember, our brain creates it. This is what's so fantastic about it, because it's so natural to us. And it entrains the brain to follow that same frequency. So if we put in a frequency in an audio and we put a theta state frequency, a tested theta state frequency, within the first 4 to 7 minutes, your brain will entrain to a theta state frequency, and your consciousness will be elevated to the level of that frequency.
So cool.
It is so cool. It's science, it's like audio science. So cool. And then what happens is people who say, well, I can't meditate, I can't concentrate, I can't do these things. You can, because it's an automatic reaction in our brain to do this sort of thing. So for example, if we create just an extra 5 hertz, that is what moves into the theta state. So you're not in a, we call it, so I do teach a little bit for the Monroe Institute, and that is where this technology comes from. And what we teach is the first level of frequency that we usually put people in is what we call a focus 10. And it's mind awake, body asleep. And it truly feels like that. So your body, you're laying there, you have headphones on. You always want to try to listen with headphones because it's up close. And your brain is moving and active, but your body starts to do that. That phase where if you start to fall asleep, or if you sit too still, you're reading a book, and all of a sudden your nose starts to itch, or like your cheek itches, your body is just saying, are you still awake? Because we're going to shut you down if you're still. So this does sort of the same thing. Your body is asleep, and your mind is completely engaged in whatever the binaural beats activity is. So sometimes it's just audio, and you can just kind of float out there in the consciousness realm and see what comes for you. And sometimes it's guided. So you get a guided location to go to, and then you have the experience from there. And it is like you were talking about culturally, some people are afraid of binaural beats because it is pretty powerful and it works so quickly. But we have to remember that cultures all around, everywhere, every culture you could possibly imagine, including any historic culture from your own ancestral line, used something to get into a theta state. It could have been the drums. It could be chanting, didgeridoos, click sticks, rattles. I go on and on. At every sound that creates a repetitive motion in our brain, that bump, 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 bump kind of thing. So when you listen to binaural beats, that third sound that comes through, it sounds like a wah wah sound. It goes wah 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 wah, and that's how you know that it's there. And so at the Monroe Institute, and also with Hemisync Corporation, who used to be part of the Monroe Institute, and now they're separate. Hemisync's frequencies in the background, there'll be music in the front. In the background, there's wah 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 wah. You just a lot of times don't hear it. So that is, and then it, again, like I said, it's just amazing because 4 to 7 minutes in, you're right there. And amazing things could start to happen. Amazing things start to happen in that expanded consciousness state.
So help me understand the difference between solfeggio and binaural beats.
I'm not even sure what solfeggio is.
If you just go in and music created based around 174 hertz for pain relief.
Yeah. So these frequencies that Robert Monroe created, Robert Monroe wasn't, he opened the Monroe Institute. He developed it, and he was an old time radio guy, like before television. So he had all the sound effects, and the radio guy voice, the whole thing. And so what he had discovered was that the vibrato, and he started working with these frequencies. He had a team he called the Explorers, and they were people who came in and worked with him, and they would work with those frequencies to determine, to get out of your normal standard music vibration, and what are the higher frequencies. And because of his background in sound technology, he was able to do amazing things. And he originally started because he had heard about people learning in their sleep. So his first thing with this was to create like these sleep audios. I think he might have even tested on his kids, but I'm not sure if I think that's what he did. He tested on family, and he just wanted to see could you learn better in sleep? And that was what started this whole idea of changing and upping and increasing the frequencies. The frequencies are increased. And there are times you'll listen to a binaural beats audio where you feel, when you're done, you feel a little lightheaded. You feel a little out there, a little whoopee. And that's why we always work on grounding afterwards, because we encourage people, don't drive, don't do anything big after this. You want to just kind of, keep that calm. So yeah, and the Explorer team helped him to discover which frequencies worked for which sort of consciousness levels we wanted to attain. And now the Monroe Institute has programs that are everything from the beginning, which is the Gateway, which is an amazing week-long program, all the way up to Star Lines, which is high focus levels, high frequency levels, and that is kind of alien connection. That is that way expanded state of consciousness.
Super fun. I love that we kind of go back to roots of centuries ago and bring it forward to make it science.
Yep.
But by doing so, we've just reintroduced ourselves to a whole new way of incorporating music into our lives, into our wellness, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Because when we're at that state, we're able to work work within ourselves in so many different ways.
Exactly. And I think if you really look at it, like I mentioned with ancestors, they knew already. We always think of them as so primitive, and they already knew how to connect with source, spirit, whatever your angels, spirit guides, helping spirits, they knew how to do that. And somehow, I think with our modern times, beating a drum outside your business meeting before you go in, so that you're at your highest, it just doesn't work like that anymore. It can't always work like that, because we're in this modern society and people would just look sideways at us. But you can do it with binaural beats, because nobody knows what you're doing if you have the earpods in or the headphones, and people don't know what you're doing. And you can use it for applications that are everything from healing to higher wisdom to, I guess that's the gamut. I mean, it's from beginning to end. You can use it for improved sleep, improved health, all sorts of things that binaural beats can be used for. I really think that they're a sound miracle. I really believe that they're a sound miracle.
Well, to be able to focus it, to find that frequency and say, oh, this frequency does that.
Yes.
And then bring it forward in such a way is really a very different way for us as a society in this day and age to look at music.
Right.
We can look at lyrics, and what does that lyric feel like for me? Is that a good connection? Is it a higher connection? Does it bring me up, or does it take me someplace I'm really not interested in playing in my world?
Right. And even without the binaural beats, like you were saying earlier about music, it does do that. Like we can hear certain songs and go, nope, I'm not listening to this, and it doesn't feel good inside, or it totally enlivens us and brings us up, and it can still increase and bring us into a higher state of consciousness, a happier state. But binaural beats is really like theta state, kind of, proven scientific, and when they worked on the healing frequencies at the Monroe Institute, and Robert did that, he worked with some of the top healers in the country, and he reverse engineered their brainwaves to then make frequencies to then create a lot of the CDs and the downloads that they have for healing, which I thought was pretty cool. He went to the human first, and then back engineered it to make something that works for other people, works for everybody. And a lot of the tracks are for healing, because that's one of humans, human conditions, is that's what we're most interested in, is how do we heal from something,
right? Physically
and mentally.
Right. And emotionally. We got to work at all those levels. They are so intricately linked. And, we talk about it with manifestation and other things that we do. If our mindset is not really where we want to go, we're going to have a hard time trying to get there. Whether maybe not just our mindset, but like our subconscious process, as we talk about that too. And the music can uplift us physically as well. It can be not just mentally and emotionally healing, but it can help with the physical side.
Exactly. Yep.
It's so phenomenal that it's out front and so readily available.
And there are differences in frequencies. So my preference is, of course, is hemisync, because that's what, I worked with for so many years, and I can tell a difference between the level of heightened consciousness when I listen to something, for example, maybe just on a standard YouTube video where someone created their own frequencies.
Right.
It feels different to me than when I listen to very specific frequencies from HemiSync or specific audios with narrators that I like, who are doing guided journeys. I like their voice. I like their cadence, their pitch, the speed in which they move, that sort of thing. That also helps too. But you can tell there's really a difference with the frequencies. And I think it's because Robert Monroe did so much work to get them to where they were, and then constantly tested and tweaked them until they worked for the programs.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So what other kinds of results might we find from working with binaural beats? We've talked about a wide spectrum of physical, mental, and emotional results, but can we drill that down just a little bit more to what we might be looking for so we could choose something that matches our goal?
Yeah. So I know I sound like a salesperson for HemiSync.
No, it's perfect. I love it.
I don't
You're giving us great information, and that was the point. Yeah.
You can go and look for specific audios based on your needs. So there are things for, like, reaching out to spirit guides. There are, of course, all the healing ones that are so important. There's all sorts of things like that. And personally, I think if you just get a couple of tracks that are not guided, but they're called the free flow tracks. And free flow means the frequencies are there, but no one's talking. And usually you want to have maybe a guided meditation first to get better at the free flow, because some people get into free flow and say, well, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm just kind of like floating here. I don't know how to have any guidance. But what's really wonderful about this, and this is what I use it for when I work with clients, if I'm writing something, if I'm having a difficulty with a person, anything, any sort of situation, I can drop into a focus 12 frequency and kind of feel that elevated up. And I look at things and I ask to see things from a higher perspective. So I'm not saying, don't show me Amara's viewpoints, Amara's physical world issues, Amara's hangups with whatever situation I'm dealing with. Help me to remove that and see that from a place of more love and compassion and wisdom. And that's what these audios, that's what binaural beats allows you to do. It allows you to kind of remove yourself from the skin suit and know you're more than your physical body. That Bob Monroe always used to say, you're more than your physical body. And that's what he wanted to teach people. So that also too, that like you wouldn't maybe have a fear of death. There's audios that talk about end of life and a chance to reach out and meet perhaps what might be awaiting you in a good way, and who might be there waiting for you, that sort of thing. So for people who have that fear of death, there's audios for that. There's just audios for all sorts of things. But I really love the idea. My two main focuses are information gathering and healing. What are the healing aspects we can use this for? Because again, healing also, when we can get out of our physical world fear, if we have physical healing as far as physical body, like an illness that we've discovered we have, but also just the healing of the emotions behind so many of our problems that we're all dragging around.
Right. We talk about that quite often on the show, as far as incomplete emotional cycles defining trauma, and our trauma can sit in our energy field for a long time and disrupt our flow before it calls for physical attention. Right?
Yes.
So what we're saying is we don't have to wait until we have a physical manifestation of this concern that's hanging out in our energy field. We can work with that while it's in the energy field, get what we need, what it's here to teach us, and prevent perhaps even the physical distortion.
Yes. Absolutely, like beautiful insight, Deidre. Because in shamanism we talk all the time about dis-ease. So dis-ease causes disease, and that is really, I think, one of the things also that led me to the binaural beat sort of thing, and getting ahead of the game. So I'll give you an example of my life. So years ago, I think this, there was a wildfire in my community. And my family almost died in the fire as we were trying to escape the flames, and they were there, and it was a horrible situation. And I suffered terribly that first year. It was this terribly depressing, and people passed away, and the community was suffering. It was just this whole jumble of what a natural disaster can cause to a community and to the lives and the people who died, who you knew, those sort of things. And binaural beats helped me. I thought all these past issues in my life, all my pre 50-year-old life, I thought I had worked through everything, every hurtful statement made, everything I had done wrong. And then the wildfire and my sadness, my grief started bringing up all of this stuff. And I thought, oh my gosh, I thought I worked on this. And I would have these memories of people saying something to me that hurt me that really weren't that big a deal, but they obviously stuck in the emotion body, in that spirit body. They obviously were a wound. And I see those like little blow darts in us that kind of disrupt the flow. And that's when I really realized that something is happening here. And I started using ancestral techniques. I started investigating like prayer beads and prayer shawls and things like that. I started going back to the ancestors. And my current book is about that. It's all about using ancestral practices to heal from our grief. I also used binaural beats, and and my book will have binaural beats guided meditations in it for people, because if we can get ahead of those grief situations before they cause not just physical problems, they can cause relationship problems, because we're bringing in pain into a fresh, healthy, brand new relationship, and like those little pockmarks in our energy field. Every once in a while we get triggered by something someone said, something that hurt us once, and we don't remember that wounding. These binaural beat programs help us to revisit those from a higher wisdom and a higher perspective, work through them, and also see the other person's perspective. We can ask to see, what was the other person's perspective in this? And you may find that what they said was to you that hurt you was completely innocent. They never knew it hurt you. It was just that it was the place we were in at the moment that they said that. And then you start to go, okay, now I have compassion for how I treated this person in reverse, like how I treated them. And then
how I responded.
Yeah. And then you start to have forgiveness for yourself and them, so both. So you realize you're just human. And then you see this bigger perspective, and then that little piece starts to melt away. And you can almost feel it. I'm not going to say almost. I'm going to say a lot of times you can actually feel it during binaural beats. You can feel like a resting of the shoulders, like the shoulders drop, and like you have a big sigh. When I work with my shamanic clients, you'll find that they cough, they sneeze, they cry. The body shifts, the body drops with the neck, and then there's a release. And now we don't have to worry about that dis-ease anymore. We've worked out one piece of past issues that has been sitting with us that we had no idea about that we were holding. And binaural beats can help with that.
I think that's so amazing that you come obviously to this conversation from your experience, and I come from a completely different aspect, not with binaural beats, but energy work and the other healing that the root cause therapy modality. And we're accomplishing similar things through very different approaches. And we can help our clients. You guys can help your listeners, whatever your phrasing is, with releasing these things from the energy body and from the physical body, and just do work on myriad levels. But bringing different modalities together.
Yes.
Like if I were using binaural beats, my practice, what an interesting combination, and how much more impactful is that work able to be.
Yes.
Love
and
it.
I think everybody should add binaural beats if they can to their practice. I was thinking about testing something with my shamanic clients where, while I'm doing the work I do, instead of them just laying there peacefully, putting binaural beats on so that they are in a theta receptive state while I'm working in a theta giving state. And so you're just at that higher level of vibration when that sort of thing is happening. And I thought that could be a really interesting test to try and see, like, what do they experience? What do they perceive? What are they visualizing and hearing in that state while I'm working? And then you compare notes at the end and find out where the matchup is. And I think that if there is a matchup, I think that would make it all the more powerful for the client to know something amazing was happening, because they weren't just the receiver, but they were also part of it. They were actually part of their own process, which is empowering. And that is, I think, a lot of the healing process is empowering the client to know that they are part of this.
Absolutely. How
Mhm.
many clients do we sit down to work with who are carrying and they don't understand they have a voice because of something that's happened in the past? Or neuroscience has proven that trauma creates or interrupts the way our brains work
Mhm.
and changes the way we function literally, and
Yes.
therefore by changes the way that we show up in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
And of course, our self-perception.
Yep.
How cool. I
Yeah.
love that these options are available.
Yeah.
Wow. Tim is suggesting we might combine binaural beats with root cause therapy.
Yeah.
for
Yep.
his-
That's what we're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. We'll talk about that more, Tim. That's cool. Todd has been just all over the board in providing contact information and references for us in the comments that you guys will all be able to see on my business Facebook page, on my YouTube channel. Amara, were you able to link over?
To the comments.
Were you able to put a link to the live show on any of your stations? I don't know if you have that up in the upper right-hand corner or not, but you will have the replay link
Oh, okay.
post up. But we're getting pointed to so many fabulous references and places to find the work that Amara is talking about. I had popped in your book, Rebuilding After Loss, Ancestral Wisdom and Sacred Practices to Help You Heal, Transform, and Thrive. That
Yes.
was
And that one's not
when I
published yet,
pulled
but
that-
it's
that's what I was
coming.
going to say when I
Yeah.
pulled it out of your bio.
Yeah.
That's soon to be released, so we can keep our eyes
Yeah.
open for that one from
Yeah.
you as
And
well.
that's the ancestral wisdom. There
Mhm.
really is, we were talking about the drums and everything there. If we go, I really found in my own grief state with the wildfire and all of the devastation around it, that I thought, how do you fix this? How do you, so many people are suffering, so many for all different reasons. What are we missing? What's the missing link? And then during a meditation, during a binaural beats meditation, I realized that a lot of us have gotten away from perhaps standard religion,
Yep.
but we left behind the traditions of those just different religious and spiritual practices that were important, and how the religion probably started to begin with was based on those traditions, and then it turned into more of a hierarchy and more man-made,
Mhm.
right? So I started going back and looking, and what do these cultures do? And I started finding all of these connections for people, like I said, I mentioned before, prayer beads. I mean, the Jainism, Sikhism, I mean, Islam, you go and you look, and you start looking, and you look at the number of beads they have and what they say when they're using the
Mhm.
beads, and it brings it's repetition. So what
Yep.
happens with repetition? We move into a theta state. We're closer to God, spirit, source. And that is where we find the answers to our problems. And so that is, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think that that's what the book is about. That's what I do with binaural beats. And I feel that the ancestors hold the wisdom. They hold the
Sure.
wisdom and the answers if we just will talk to them. Just go back, just higher, move ourselves into a higher
By
state.
yourself. Yeah.
And really just ask for that wisdom to be brought forward from the collective consciousness that's
Sure.
been gathered since man existed.
Yeah,
And
our
women.
society really isn't geared toward passing those traditions, understandings, beliefs, practices down through word anymore.
Mhm.
And we're all scattered across the country and across continents, rather than in a more local area. Many of us no longer have Sunday dinners
I know.
with our elders and our
Mhm.
littles and everyone together in one space for those traditional conversations and the traditional sharing of wisdom that
Right.
used to take place on the regular.
I know, exactly. And there are people who are in specific religions who don't know why they practice something
Right.
specific. They don't understand. Like some people don't understand, like in Buddhism with their prayer beads, what's the sacred 108? Why are so many of the Buddhist, the Hindu, and the Sikh cultures, why is the sacred 108? And why is 108, like there's 108 steps to this, there's 108 rooms to this, there's 100, you start looking through this and you realize our ancestors did everything based on mathematics and geometry, and that there's some real power behind that, because when you have millions of people throughout the centuries, right, doing the same practice, it builds a power within the practice. Sure. And so if you understand why the practice was created, you can, instead of just repeating the beaded and flipping the beads and repeating, you go, wait a minute, I have hundreds of ancestors standing behind me doing that same thing, and I'm bringing that energy forward. I get chills when I even think about it. Like right now, my arms just went chilled when I think about the ancestors standing behind us who have the answers to this, and that we have access to that through binaural beats, through meditation, through healing practices. We have that. And I think people just don't realize it because we haven't been taught that by all of our main religions that we've been involved in.
So I love that you want to bring that to the forefront, that we've been able to talk about it and at least create some curiosity. And open our minds to looking in that direction for some of the answers that we've been seeking. And again, just repeating the same, it's almost like, I don't know, pardon me, our modern day school system where we feed information and we have children regurgitate it. There's a lack of understanding of the history. And I think it's beautiful that you can bring that to the surface and that as you stumble intentionally into information, you're able to connect those dots and bring that information forward and bring it back to our attention.
And it's also embodying it. It's not just knowing it, it's saying, to the ancestors, come around me and help me to understand them in. Because those energies, however you believe in ancestral energy, however you believe, if you go into that theta state and you ask, please show me, please help me perceive an ancestor. It might not be your grandmother who passed away, a year ago. It might be multiple lines back, but there is an essence that comes forward. There's an energy, and you can feel it in the theta state. It's a perception. So everybody has perception. It's just all of our perceptions are different, whether we hear, see, feel, or know in that state. But we all have a perception, and you can tell when something has entered, an essence has entered into your theta consciousness that is wise. It just feels larger than life. It feels like a great grandparent that knows you at the core and can help you see things from this higher perspective. So it really is. And I'm not exaggerating, everybody. No, I'm not exaggerating. There is just this, once you figure it out, once you feel that for the first time, you want to keep engaging. You want to keep bringing that ancestral information forward, that higher wisdom forward for your own life. And you just see miraculous changes in your life, in your relationships, in your manifestation abilities, because you might be manifesting this over here when you really should be manifesting probably this over here. You're manifesting what the consciousness says is best for you, not necessarily like that big boat and that new house, the fifth house that you want, that kind of thing. Houses are fine. If it's your fifth house and you're like, I don't know, I'm not getting it. Go back to the ancestors and say what is really important. And you'll find that sometimes they can tweak something, just the smallest amount, that completely changes your relationship with your child, your loved one, your coworkers. It's again, I'm not exaggerating, and I know I sound super excited about it.
You are, but it's awesome. I love it.
I've seen it happen. I've experienced it. I've seen it with others, and that's why I feel it's just amazing, and it should be taught in high school so we all know how to do it.
High school and junior high school, somewhere in there. I think junior high school is so incredibly tumultuous for everyone, and none of us know how to handle all these raging hormones and the thought patterns and attitudes that we choose to carry at that time without the knowledge of how those attitudes and postures and thought processes and emotions, how do they affect others? How do they affect me?
Yes, exactly.
Where do they come from? What's going on? Let's take it to junior high school.
Yeah. Okay.
Get it. I know we like to talk about brains not fully formed until really actually early 20s, but we always in our society say 18. So I understand the correlation with high school. I want to go back further than that.
I agree. And just the compassion we could teach at that young age where there's bullying and you go, okay, everybody, we're going to do this binaural beats, and then
now we just want that even further because
now we're in second grade.
But honestly, at this point in time in our society, yes, there is a movement. I don't think it's big enough to facilitate huge change. We're getting pockets of that change.
Yeah.
We're facilitating, starting, picking up on a lot of conversations about, look, our little ones aren't born with this hatred and all of this anger. Sure, they've got some epigenetics happening, but we can help them work with that more effectively. We can help mold a more compassionate, empathetic, open society by starting a little bit sooner.
I agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
Hey, on that note, I'm going to take a super quick break. Jamie Lynn, I saw you come in. Good morning. Good morning, Lee. Thanks, ladies, for coming over to join us. We're going to take a super quick station break, and we will be right back. And we're back. You caught us. It's the Self-Care Show on Wednesday, August the 2nd. I'm your host, Deidre. My guest today is the amazing Amara Honeck, and we are here with you on WLTK DB Talk Radio. We were talking about bringing forward more empathy, compassion, and being able to do that in so many different ways, not just by binaural beats and expanding our own consciousness, but by bringing in the wisdom of our ancestors and carrying that information forward, not just into our lives and sharing it by modeling those ideas and that information, but by passing it down to our younger generations and helping facilitate, I don't know, should we just say maybe a little bit more calm in the lives of all of us?
Absolutely.
And
And
more
healing
positive.
and peace.
Yes.
And I think theta state consciousness gives you a better opportunity to really look at situations from different perspectives. So
Yeah.
instead of reacting, and then the face kind of reacting, we can stop and say, what is actually happening here?
Mhm.
Is this person who said this thing to me hurt? And that's why they said this thing to me. And so now we react with compassion rather than from our own place of why are they hurting me and saying these
Yeah.
things to me? And then we create this whole thing, this whole situation.
Yeah.
And binaural beats it just allows you to easily slip into a theta state of consciousness where you can ask these big questions. And the more you listen, the better you get at it. And you develop what I call similar to shamanism. You develop a cosmology. So you can go into a theta state and you can say, this is the space I go to when I need healing. This is
Yeah.
the space I go to when I want to speak with God, source, spirit, angels, this for information. And you can start to develop these places in that higher level of consciousness that you go to for information, for guidance. You can even go in, and it sounds strange, but you can even go in just to rest. And I don't mean
Yeah.
sleep. I mean just rest. If you've just had a really rough day and you're not tired, you just need to decompress.
Musa.
Binaural beats, there's audios that you can listen to that just bring peace because they've got the frequencies in to calm us. And when we're calm, we're just better. We're just better in every way when we're calm and peaceful. And especially if you've had a ragged day at work and then you still have little kids you have to
Right.
come home to, and you want to be their mom and you want to be good and not take work out on family members. Then you have this tool that takes 20, not even, I mean, you usually can enter the theta state with the HemiSync binaural beats frequencies in about 4 to 7 minutes. Everybody's a little bit different, but so if you can stay in for 20 minutes, you can probably find that level of peace that you're looking for and just kind of wash away the dirt of the day.
We've talked a lot about theta state. Help me make sure I'm understanding theta versus delta, beta. Help me wrap my head around that, please.
We don't want to be in the state of normal existence where we are right now.
Mhm.
We don't want to be in a delta state. We don't want to be sleeping. Because we can do that without any sort of help most of the time.
Right.
And there are hemisync audios that are delta frequencies.
Okay.
So for people who have trouble sleeping at night, they will put delta frequencies, and you can, to sleep. We want to be in that, again, that mind awake, body asleep, where we are. Don't see it as, you can see it as detaching from your body, but not as scary as that sounds. Some people have out of body experiences in the theta state, but look at it more of, we're not caring right now that we're eating or drinking something, we're worrying about life in general. We're actually expanding and moving up into that higher state, that theta state, where the body is left behind. The concerns of the physical, that's what I'll say. The concerns of the physical are left behind, and we're moving into that expanded state where we realize we are more than our body. We're more than this. This is just the encasement. And it really, once you do that and you start moving into that theta state, you realize like I am more than this. When I die, I know that my energy, my essence will continue on in a different way. And there's just a reassurance of our own intelligence. And I'm going to say, some people don't like when I say this, I'm going to say, and our own divinity. We are pieces of God, and you are reminded of that in the theta state. You are reminded that you are a co-creator, that you, and that's another thing I wanted to say too, that that state is also wonderful for manifestation and co-creating. You can say, I'm stuck with this, I'm trying to create this. I had a woman attend one of my shamanic workshops, and so we used, not binaural beats, but we used a drum to get in. So at the end of the class, she said, I've never done anything like this before shamanically, but we used the drum, and she shamanic journeyed, and she was able to finish a video production of a small movie she was creating. And the creative aspect was slipping, like what she was supposed to do. And in the journey, in the guidance, in the perception, she visually saw how the show was supposed to end. And there she is. She manifested this level of creativity, so we can be creative in that higher state also, for writing, for art, for creative endeavors. If you have a business idea, you can go to that state and you can look and see, how does this look? And then keep going back into that state for each step that you want to take along the way. So you're not getting it all at once. You're getting it in baby bites, baby steps, baby bites.
Small doses. And it's easier to carry things forward or bring things back to reality, so to speak, and move forward with them if we have small bites, rather than this enormous piece of information that I just can't find the rest of right now. So I can go back and get bit by bit.
Yeah, it's not as overwhelming.
That's wonderful. So do a little neurological dig here. See if I can understand.
I can see the answer.
I'm sure you can. I've been hesitant to play in the land of binaural beats because I have an asymmetrical hearing loss.
Yes.
And the frequency of loss, by definition, is different in each ear.
Yes.
So how does that influence?
I have an answer for that.
Okay, I figured you would. Because
I have an answer.
Know that asymmetrical hearing loss originates in the brain. We don't hear with our ears, we hear with our brain.
Yes.
So help me get more comfortable with the idea of working through binaural
beats. And I hope you do try this now, knowing about the hearing loss, because we're listening with headphones, right? We want over the ear headphones most of the time. So the whole ear is encapsulated. You don't want ear pods as much as you want the full on headphones. I don't have a pair here to show, but it's like a full ear case.
No, I gotcha.
Okay. And so what happens is I don't have hearing loss. So I am hearing the sound, and then the frequencies are kind of in the background. Like, you're not noticing them. I'm hearing the upfront music that they put in front of the binaural beats. You will be but you specifically for this, you will be experiencing the vibration in your ear that creates the same effect.
Okay.
So I had a person attend my Exploring Consciousness workshop, and she was partially deaf in one ear and then full hearing in this ear, and it still was working. She could still, she was still entering that theta state. She was still engaging, still having an experience and perceptions, because it's the vibration of that inner ear that's really like the player in this.
Thank you. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking, well, duh, because we're not.
We're not duh. It's a good question. A lot of people ask who have hearing loss.
it occurred to me as you were explaining it that we're not okay, we may be processing the frequency initially on this physical plane, so to
Yeah.
speak, that whatever state it is that we're normally in. But once we get to the consciousness side, it's all being done at the higher conscious
Mhm.
level, not in our physical form.
Yeah, and
And
on the
so
inner
that,
workings of the body and the brain, not just what we,
yeah,
not just what we're hearing, but like on the inner workings of how all of that is.
so
And I
cool.
do I do have a sample audio. I gave it to the producer. There
Oh,
is a sample audio that can be played and you can hear for yourself. Do you hear the wah for yourself? And if you hear that, you know that binaural beats is working for you. There is that. And I would suggest that even if you don't hear that, that you still would listen to the audio and just see where it takes you, and you can, it's on my website. You can, it's copyright free. We Monroe Institute puts it out
you
so that
mentioned.
we can give people examples of how this works so that they're not afraid. Some people are afraid to enter this realm.
So I've got a couple of links here, and I want to make sure that if I'm going to pop that up for the copyright free, I pull the correct one. Would that be the sample binaural beats experience
Yeah, that
at
first
your
one.
website? So
Yeah.
that would be for podcast listeners. That would be amarahoneck.com. It's AM as in Mary, ARAHON as in Nancy, ECK.com/hemisync.
Yep, with a dash in it. Yes.
Yes. I was
And
just
then
going to say that. Go
there's
for it.
there's information about how to listen, like what to do. It's best to like lay back and just kind of those semi-darkened room, and those things that help to make
Yeah.
the process better.
Yeah.
So that's all on there. And then there's a little video about how the binaural beats work in the brain. So you can just I cut and paste that little video. And then of course there's the audio. The audio is from Robert Monroe. So the audio is old school. When you listen to it, you'll
Nice.
be like, oh my gosh, old radio voice, but he has some of the best tracks. I played that for my consciousness gathering last month, and I was kind of afraid that everybody would think, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're bringing all this old school back." But every one of them was like,
Mhm.
"This was the best. I had the great experience." It was just really wonderful.
I
So
love.
old school, I think
Yeah,
sometimes
I
works
was
for
just going
that.
to say, yeah, I love that you're able to bring back the old school and go back to the original because it carries its own energy as well.
It sure does.
So it's so
Thousands and
awesome.
thousands of people have listened to that, so
Yeah,
it carries its energy.
love it. And then you had also mentioned your consciousness gatherings.
Yep, every month I have a consciousness gathering. It's free. You can find that on my website. Um, Under the same Amara Honeck /consciousness
Mhm.
exploration gathering. And that is free. And I encourage people to come. We listen to a variety of audios. And then you can see kind of like which narrator works for you, which binaural beats tracks work for you. And just you have me there to help you with if you have
Yay.
questions. So I can say, well, maybe try this if it's not working, or do this. Or I mean, there's simple things like people will fall asleep during the tracks, and we talk about why you might fall asleep and how to try to keep that from happening and things like that, where you get like these little pointers. And then you're with also people who are like-minded. So you can say your perceptions of what you see, you can say pretty much anything, and everybody will be like, yep, I get it. Yep, I get it. Because they're there too, and they have their own experiences, their own amazing things that are happening. And listening to other people share shows you also the
Yes.
potential and the possibilities in the consciousness space that maybe you didn't
Yes.
even think you could do in that space.
Love it. It's such a blessing that you're able to have these offerings available to all of us on your website. And then let's drop back super quick. I want to talk a little bit about your new release.
Oh yeah.
You've got a new project coming available.
Yes. So I am working with, I already worked with ChemiSync,
Yeah.
and I established 2 scripts for a program called Finding Closure. And it's finding closure on everything that you could possibly imagine. Everything from relationship issues to
Mhm.
something hurtful somebody said. I mean, anything you could find as disappointing, loss, or grief. And they're very well guided journeys. So they're easy to follow along, easy to slip into the theta state. The first one is called Inner Journey, and we talk with a guide. It's a very specific guide, and we work with symbols for holding the emotion and the pain of your issue so that you don't have to, so you can release and go higher. allow that symbol to hold your pain while you go higher. And there's what we call free flow time in there, which is, I think both tracks have maybe 10 to 20 minutes where you have time to engage with all of the visuals that I had set you up for. And these are based on my own shamanic journeys, what I saw in shamanic journey for my own issues and the guidance I received. I set that all up for you. So you're in the same place I was energetically, and you can have your own experience. It's meant to be worked on in small bits. Closure does not come in one audio or two audios. It comes over time. So you can keep going in. It's all open-ended. And you get more information and more information, healing symbols, things like that you can use in the physical world. And the second audio is for healing. And we do a complete sound healing using singing bowls, using the correct notes for the singing bowls based on chakras, on which chakra they go with. And I was worried that it might not work, because normally I put the bowls on people physically. But
this is the vibration. Yeah.
It was like, they nailed it. The sound engineers with HemiSync absolutely nailed it. And that comes out August 16. I know they're getting everything ready. They're getting CDs printed right now, MP3 downloads ready. And I think everybody will, I really think that I hope, I pray that it's helpful for people to start nibbling away at some of the dis-ease, like I talked about earlier, that we have, and seeing things from a higher perspective.
I think we all need it. And I think it's just so amazing that you have your new release coming out. We've got the book titles posted up there for everybody. You got 2 of them. I know one is still coming out, but that's still 2.
Yeah,
and you're just making so much tremendous headway as far as bringing this information forward and making these beautiful options available to everybody.
Yeah. My goal really is, if I've been through this storm, I really want to help people to get through the storm. Also, here's what I did. This might help you. That's kind of the attitude, is maybe some of these things might help you, especially the ancestral wisdom.
And I love that you can also bring back the aspect for us of helping others through sharing our journey.
Absolutely.
It's such an essential component, and it gives you such a neat perspective from your personal experience that you can offer to others that they can learn from. And you know what? It might not be a 100% fit, but because it's something similar, potentially, there's still something to be gained.
Yeah. Well, Deidre, this kind of wraps fully around to what you said, where our ancestors would sit with us and have a meal and tell us things, tell us stories. And so we would learn as children how they healed from wounds, things like that. So that you just kind of brought that all back around right here at the end. Perfect.
Well, you laid it all out there for us, and I think it's amazing. Lee has a question for us. I don't know if you can see the chat, but I did just pop it up on our screen. She's wondering if you had said you have a CD of, I think she was saying shamanic sounds. Is that what you mean, Lee? I know she's still here somewhere. It takes a minute for things to process through the system. Wanted to address that. Yes, she did mean the shamanic sounds.
So on my website, if you do amarahoneck.com/meditations, there's one I created for a group I did, a spiritual direction group that I created, I created for them. And so you can listen to that one. It does have a drum in it, and it has binaural beats. Not the HemiSync frequencies because they're copyright and I wasn't able to use that, but there are binaural beats and a drum. So you can try that. HemiSync also has a number of CDs that are shamanic related, but they're not just the drum. There's like a whole soundscape going on, and you can listen to samples of those on their website to see if that's something it sounds like you might like. But it's not just straight drumming. It like I said, it's other stuff, didgeridoos and synthesized sounds and animal sounds, I think, depending. So it might be a little more chaotic than you're looking for if you're just looking for the drum. But you can try mine first if you want, because it's free and I put it out there for everybody to listen to. And you can see if that one works for you, because it has the drum and binaural beats going at the same time.
Nice. Thank you, Amara. Lee, I hope you got all the information you need. If you didn't, let me know and I will pass it on to Amara so that we can get a more specific answer for you if that's necessary. No worries. She said she found some on YouTube, but she doesn't have a TV in her bedroom. Girl, pull it up on your phone. I love you. Pull it up on your phone.
And for the audio, the one I'm talking about, the shamanic audio, you do want to listen with headphones or ear pods, because it was created in a dual sound environment. So you want to be able to have that full stereo sound.
Super
Or you
awesome.
might not hear it very well.
Amara, it's such a pleasure to see you again. It's been so many years.
I know.
We've been in contact with each other. I love that. Well, you popped in the back room this morning and we're both like, oh my gosh, hi, how are you? Like nothing has changed. And so much has changed for both of us. It's just beautiful to see your expansion and the avenues that you've been able to provide for yourself to share your work and to share your journey with other people, to share the healing experiences and opportunities. It's beautiful. Guys, that's going to do it for us for today. I want to thank each and every one of you for popping in and joining the show today. I know there are a bunch more folks out there on YouTube. Amara will have the replay available for her folks and for her use, and will eventually wind up as well. I'll post the links on my socials and I'll send them over to Amara to post them for her work and her use as well. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I know Todd's had a blast over in the back room over there backstage, running things and making sure that he gets this additional fantastic information as well. Karen, thank you for coming in and joining us this morning as well. Amara, I will see you backstage in just a moment. Hopefully you can hang out a little bit with us. Guys, once again, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I look forward to seeing you all next week on the next episode of The Self-Care Show. I'm your host, Deidre. My guest today was the amazing Amara Honeck, and you are watching us on WLTKDB Talk Radio.
The truth is here and now on WLTKDB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.